Hello everybody, welcome back to BnB Anime. Today, we are going to be discussing Food Wars, Shokugeki no Soma, the fifth plate, which is the final season. It's something that both Brad and I have been watching for many, many years. And yeah, we're super excited to get into it. But before we do dive into it, I'm Blue, that's Brad, and we're going to be talking about some other stuff, like news and shit, before we actually get into the meat, the bones. The what? I don't know.
But are you okay?
I'm not okay. How are you?
You see, I thought I was not doing okay going into this, but no, you're taking the cake on this one, mate.
Nah, I've had a really, really long week and a really long day as well, actually. I slept like absolute poop last night and then I had to be up really early this morning. So, yeah.
Damn.
What about you? How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I can't complain. I just got done watching Christmas movies.
Ooh.
So that was fun. When I say Christmas movies, it was a Christmas film, and then we also watched a Christmas episode of The Office, because, you know, why the fuck not?
American or US? American or US? American or UK?
The American Office.
Have you watched the UK Office?
I have watched neither of any of them. I can't get into the American Office.
Right.
And I don't know where to find the UK Office, nor do I really have time to watch anything outside of anime right now.
I was going to say, I've seen neither, but I've heard, in general, British people prefer the British version and American people prefer the American version.
Well, I know a lot of American people that actually really like the British version. However, the general consensus from Americans is that the first two seasons of The Office kind of sucks because they tried to copy what the UK Office did. But then from season 3 on, they just kind of started doing their own thing and taking their own way with that format. So it got a lot better.
That makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, we've spoken about it before, the difference between British humor and North American humor. And they're very different from each other. So trying to take something and take the exact script and just adapt it to and try and fit it to an American audience, I think it won't work.
Yeah, it's just one of those. It's just two completely different kinds of audiences, so it doesn't necessarily translate well.
Yeah, well, the cultures are very different. And I think you get into that mindset of, like, if you're an American and you're watching British TV, in your head, you're watching British TV. So when things are like, you know, you don't quite get a joke, or it's not quite your humor, or, you know, something happens that you wouldn't see on American TV, in your mind, you have that, like, fallback of, oh, but it's British TV. But if you're watching American actors performing a British script, you don't have that, like, cushion to fall back on of being like, oh, but, you know, it's not my culture, so that's why it's a little bit odd to me. Because you're expecting it to fit into your culture. Agreed.
I
think it's the same way with British people when they watch, you know, American sitcoms or whatever. There's sometimes things where it's like, oh, you know, this isn't for me. Or, like, you have that, like, oh, well, it's American TV, so American TV does that.
Yeah, it's just those silly Americans with their not funny jokes.
Americans have some pretty funny jokes. They're just different jokes to the UK jokes.
I don't know the difference. I'm not a funny person, so therefore it just doesn't work.
All right. Okay. Sure.
Don't laugh at me. Stop trying to discount my point. What am I, here for cheap jokes? My jokes aren't 50% off, you know?
You know what that reminds me of? You know, whenever you see those, like, mannequins in shop windows with those sale shirts? I've always wanted one of those.
Really?
Yeah, like, why don't they sell them? Like, I would buy a shirt that says sale on it. I think that's hilarious.
I mean, I feel like I would too. Just because the looks you would get, I'm game.
Yeah.
Like, that would stop me in the slightest.
For years, I've looked at those shirts and thought, I wonder if I could just go up to the counter and be like, how much is that shirt in the window? Can I get it off the mannequin, please?
Maybe one of these days we'll have enough money to where we can walk in and be like, look, I'll buy the mannequin and the shirt just to make sure I get the shirt.
Yeah, I'll purchase your whole window. Just give me the shirt. My mum had a good birthday this week, though.
That's good. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was yesterday at the time of recording.
Oh, so that's why we didn't record yesterday. I see what it is.
It was one of the factors in the sense that I forgot to take notes and then was like, I don't really have time to take notes because I have to have dinner with my family and be sociable. And then there was a power cut.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, there was 2 power cuts. It flickered the first time and my brother comes running upstairs and he goes, hey, was that just my room or was it the whole house? And I was like, that was a whole dang neighborhood, brother. And then I went on Twitter on my phone because the internet was still down and looked on there and the local guys were like, hey, we're sending someone out to fix a wire that seems to be like faulty. And then the Twitter posts just kept going and it was like, we're currently defrosting the cable. We're currently working on whatever. I don't know. It was by the tracks, so the train tracks. So I think like there was a big puddle or something by the tracks that the train hit or something. I don't know. And it like splashed water or like sludge up onto the cable and then it froze while it was still wet. And so then it expanded inside the cable or whatever and like pushed it because of course when, water freezes, it expands. And yeah, like pushed something out. And so as they were defrosting it, it went completely down and the cable just like broke. And then they had to replace it.
I wish they had done it in a funny way. Like it'd been a guy up on a lift taking a selfie with somebody in the background with a hairdryer just trying to dry that damn thing.
That's funny.
That would be great. I would have loved that.
That's funny.
I feel like more people should do stuff like that. That's a great way to garner some quick attention.
Yeah.
But also just show humor, because I feel like a lot of things is just too serious at times.
Too serious. Yeah.
And I get it. You need to be serious. But with stuff like that, come on.
Mm-hmm. It was pretty late at night as well, so I feel like all kids and stuff had already gone to bed, so I don't feel like there was anybody that, like, needed the power. I mean, there's probably people that were like, my homework assignment, but, it was like, most people were probably getting ready to go to bed.
Except you and I. We're just like, record. Or anime.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that, COVID restrictions go into place on Monday. So, Sunday, actually. Yeah. So, day that this episode comes out, COVID restrictions are hitting hard to where I am. Mm-hmm. And so, last days of Christmas shopping is Saturday. So, that's going to be absolutely crazy.
Ooh.
Yeah, because all stores are being shut down, non-essential stores, everything.
Mm-hmm.
Malls closing a lot because we've had an increase in numbers and it's finally hit the villages. So yeah, because we managed to kind of avoid it for the most part throughout this year because we're, small and less populated, spaced out. We don't tend to come into contact with anybody anyways. But yeah, it's finally trickled into the villages. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, full-on restrictions start happening on Monday.
Well, at least they're finally starting to take it serious because I know how much you've been bitching about things, so...
Yeah, it's a mandatory mask policy now, which is great. Mm-hmm. Can't believe it took them this long to make it mandatory.
I mean, we still haven't made it mandatory where I live, and it's a semi-decently large city, so do with that as you will.
It should be mandatory. Should be mandatory.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a health condition that makes it so you can't wear a mask, you should be wearing a face shield.
Yep. Or like a full-blown, full-face respirator. If you can get your hands on one.
Yeah. And if you're honestly really that sick to the point where you can't go outside without a face mask, with not wearing a face mask or a face shield or, some other kind of covering or protection, I don't think that you should be outside anyway because it just sounds like that's a huge danger to you.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, agreed. So, but yeah, it's definitely good to hear. I hate that numbers are actually going up, but at least, again, the area's taking it seriously.
Yeah. Nearly 150 in ICU here in Alberta.
Damn.
Yeah.
I don't even want to know what the ICU numbers are around here. Just, I'll pass.
Well, there's hardly any people in Alberta. Mm-hmm. So those numbers probably seem small to a lot of people, but to us they're pretty big because we don't have a lot of people.
You just have tundra.
Not quite tundra. We're pretty fast. No, I would say pretty far. We're far south from the tundra, but a lot of prairie.
Alberta has tundra. It's okay.
Yeah, but what about you? Spoken about me, what about you?
I applied for a new job the other day. So we'll see how that goes.
Fingers crossed.
I haven't posted for a new job in over 4 years. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes because I am fully aware of what is happening in my current situation. Mm-hmm. I realize that there's nowhere else for me to go.
Yeah.
So it's I need to start looking elsewhere. I need to broaden my horizons a little bit and just kind of do what I can until other ventures and whatnot. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, but your determination is a huge asset to HR, and future managers and stuff for you to be like, hey, I want to improve. I want to get better. I want to take training courses. I want to do all that stuff. The proactive nature is, hugely appealing to potential hires.
Oh, yeah, because I have been in management, and I'm always willing to learn. But it's funny because what I'm going into now has nothing to do with any of that, or at least what I applied for. I applied for a security job.
Ooh, you would make a good security guard.
I mean, I'm a big boy, so I feel like it would work. Plus, all those years of criminal justice, I can slightly put it to use.
Yeah, and I feel like you've gotten a lot more confident as well within the past year or so. And I feel like it wouldn't be so much of a stretch for you now to be you wouldn't be as uncomfortable in that job if you had to speak up and put yourself in the center of attention more than I think, because I know you would have been fine doing that before a year ago, but I feel like now you are more in your element doing it.
I'm a lot closer to being myself 100% of the time than not.
Yeah, we love that.
Yeah.
Love being yourself. You do you, boo.
Yes.
Yes.
But that's about it. I haven't done a whole lot else. I've played COD with the boys. And I also loaded up Sims for the first time the other day, and then immediately closed out of it because I got out of the notion really quick.
I wonder if the Christmas pack's still free.
I don't know. Although one thing I am surprised by is the fact that neither you nor I have jumped on that Japan pack yet.
Yeah. I haven't actually been doing much gaming at all recently. I mean, things have been crazy for the past 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But I've had no real urge to game.
I mean, I can understand though, because as deep into shit as you are right now, and then the amount of anime we have to watch, it kind of... And then on top of everything else that you've had going on, it kind of, I'm assuming it leaves you drained by the time the day's over with.
Yeah, I've found myself reading a lot more books. My eyesight's getting worse, and I made an appointment with an optician and then couldn't go to it because of COVID stuff. And so it is an essential service, but the optometrist had a client come in that then reported that they got COVID a week later. So she had to then close down and couldn't see anybody because she had been exposed to someone who then had COVID within the 14 days. So so she had to stop clients for 14 days. So my appointment got shifted and then life happened.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do have an appointment, but yeah, I can't see very well right now. And so I have been doing a lot more reading because I have glasses for my short term vision, my short distance, far sight. Your
nearsightedness.
Whatever. You know what I mean? I'm the daughter of an optician. I should know this. I don't. And so I have glasses for that, so I can see up close fine, but I can't see in the distance. So I'm gonna need bifocals, which normally are given to people that are 50. But yeah, no, I'm just blind. So that's fun. But yeah, I've been reading. That's what I was trying to say. I've been doing more reading to chill out in the evenings, and I haven't been. Because I've been enjoying that. I haven't really found the urge to game.
I've been feeling the urge to escape into gaming more here lately. But yet, at the same time, I sit down to game, and then everybody starts wanting to tug on me to play with them and do this, that, and the other. I'm just like...
I don't want to socialize. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll end up socializing and then just kind of not focusing on the game, which then in turn doesn't fix the problem. Yeah. And then I just end up being frustrated. And so I'm glad I have a 4-day weekend this weekend. So I'm going to try to get this edited tonight after we get done. With this, and then just enjoy myself for the next 4 days and kind of calm down because I feel myself burning out quickly. So it'll be nice to kind of get that out of my system before the holidays.
Yeah, no, I feel like you definitely deserve it. You've been working crazy recently, and I really hope that the new job goes the application for that goes well. And if not, I hope that you keep looking and find something that suits you better.
Hopefully so. But if not, once we get fully staffed at work, that should take a little bit of the pressure off because I can hopefully stay in the back and stop dealing with dumb.
Yeah, I get that. I had a question for you, and then it's just escaped my brain.
It'll come back eventually.
Oh, Cyberpunk.
I've been looking at it, but I haven't quite pulled the trigger on it yet.
No?
Because it looks amazing, but apparently it's also currently a bug fest.
Yeah, did hear about did you hear about the clipping male genitalia?
No, I have not heard about this.
Okay, so my brother was telling me about this, because he's got, my brother's also a streamer, and he has a bunch of friends that are also streamers, and some of them were playing Cyberpunk, and they were laughing about the fact that they have customizable penis options.
Mm-hmm.
So you can either be circumcised or uncircumcised.
Mm-hmm.
And because they kind of went into details about that kind of stuff, I'm assuming they went into details of with the programming and game design or whatever because of that. Now, sometimes, because it's a bug fest and because they actually programmed that and designed that, when there are clothing bugs, one of the clothing bugs that happened is, the penis clipping through the clothing.
So you're just in a cutscene and then bam, dick out.
Yeah, pretty much. I haven't seen it, but yeah, that's what my brother told me.
I am humored by this.
I thought I'd share because it made me giggle.
I am so humored by this because CD Projekt Red, God bless them, they do such a phenomenal job with their games. The Witcher 3 is probably one of the most beloved games of all time.
Mm-hmm.
But the amount of bugs that are in this, I've heard a lot of people compare it to Bethesda. Like it turned into a Fallout game. And apparently the current gen console versions, because the PS5 and Xbox X versions won't be out until next year.
Right.
So if you have it on PS4 or Xbox One, it's almost unplayable because the game is too powerful to run on those consoles.
Oof.
So I've seen renderings of some of the characters and they don't even have faces. It's just skin-colored tone glitches.
Nice. So now that brings me to a question because it was delayed like 3 times, I think, at least.
2 or 3 times, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I remember it being delayed about a month ago, because it was released yesterday. Yeah. And a lot of people were complaining about it, and they were saying they just wanted to do this to make sure that they patched some bugs, which I don't want to know what those bugs were, considering if it's this buggy after those patches.
Well, so it had a 45 gig day one patch.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's weird because the PC version released, I think, at like 6 p.m. on the 9th instead of its normal release date on the 10th. And on the 10th, it released for the consoles.
Yeah.
So,
because I know it was supposed to, like, it was advertised as being released on the 10th.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that because it's my mom's birthday. So I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So I don't know if the day one patch fixed a lot of that, because if they released the game early on the 9th, I don't know if the day one patch would have went into place on the 10th or what would have happened. So I don't know how much of that has been taken care of. I know CD Projekt Red is really good about fixing a lot of that stuff, but with a game that is at bare minimum 40 hours. Mm-hmm. But if you do all the side quests and go in for multiple different endings and all that other fun stuff, if you have over 100-hour-long game, it's going to take a while to sort out a lot of those.
Yeah. Well, it makes me wonder what a lot of people are thinking, considering that the game was postponed so many times, and it was postponed pretty much, like, really close to the previous release date.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people were angry about it, and now it's being released, and it's still buggy as hell. I'm wondering if a lot of people that pre-ordered are, like, upset about that.
Well, at least as far as the last pushback that it was pushed back because the Xbox version was just unplayable.
Yeah.
So now, at least they fixed it. It's playable, but it looks like shit.
Right. So, in your opinion, do you think they should have, at the last, pushback, the last when they postponed it last, do you think they should have postponed it longer and tried to get another couple patches in? Or do you think they did the right thing by postponing it only a month? Or do you think that they, how do you think they should have changed that to have a more successful release?
Ultimately, if the prior gen consoles, if it's as unplayable as it is, those should not have been released right now, period. Those should have stayed in development. At the very least, they should have made it like a timed exclusive.
Yeah.
That way, PC players can have it for, say, 6 months. I know that would initially piss a lot of people off, but looking at it now, hindsight's 2020. They should have done that and then just told people the reason it wasn't releasing everywhere else is because it's just unplayable. Or just postpone everything and then piss off everyone.
Yeah.
But ultimately, with the war of timed exclusives and just overall exclusives right now in general, I don't think it would have been that bad. And then they could have spent all that time, for one, working on patches for the consoles to at least make the prior gen more playable and continue development on the next gen versions of the game, and then just kind of go from there. Because a few, visual glitches here or there on PC isn't going to be that bad.
Yeah.
But whenever you have versions of the game that are just awful and not optimized whatsoever, that's a problem.
Yeah. It makes me wonder why they didn't. I mean, I know that they probably wanted to release it for a Christmas release, because then a lot of people are going to get it for Christmas presents, and then they're going to make a higher profit. But I don't know. It makes me wonder why they didn't, plan it better. I mean, I assume they just ran into, massive walls when COVID hit, and, everyone's stay-at-home order and everything like that, and that made it probably 10 times harder than it needed to be to finish and set them off schedule.
That may have a little bit to do with it, because it was supposed to come out way earlier this year, but it got pushed back, and then it got pushed back again.
Yeah, and then I guess they were just trying to get it out before Christmas.
And by the time Christmas rolls around, they may have a lot of the bugs fixed, at least from the perspective of just, I guess, overall performance. But again, it's one of those things, I'm not sure, because if I were in their shoes, I don't know how I would handle it, because you would think that they should know about a lot of these, because obviously there's 45 gigs worth of day one patches. But if you can't preload the game until 3 days beforehand, why couldn't those patches be included with that, just to keep people, just to keep a lot of that problem down? But again, I don't even know what was included in that 45 gigs worth of patches. I just know that's a Call of Duty size patch, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, it makes me curious about it. I want to be in that meeting room and see what everyone was talking about. How they decided that it was worth the release and, it was worth the backlash.
Well, also, CD has come into some fire recently because the game is apparently a massive epilepsy trigger. Because you spend a lot of times in nightclubs, and of course, like with any video game, you get that short little pop-up in the beginning saying there's, epilepsy warning. But for this game being what it is, it wasn't broad enough.
Right.
Because you can kind of avoid it in some games like the Assassin's Creed, or really anything Ubisoft makes. It's a little bit more prominent than others, because I can see why a lot of their stuff can be an epilepsy trigger. But this game, with all the flashing neon lights and everything else going on and the amount of time you spend in clubs, it's just come under fire.
It's unplayable, yeah.
Yeah, because I haven't heard any cases of it yet, but there's one really renowned writer that just absolutely went in and bashed them for it, because they said the warning isn't big enough. It's just in the end user license agreement, and that's it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So CD came out and said they're working on a way to implement it to where it's not going to overall hinder gameplay, and they should have done something about that from the beginning. I guess it just slipped their mind. Yeah.
Yeah, because I know that, in a lot of games, because obviously every game that has flashing lights for even 3 seconds or whatever has to include that warning somewhere in the game labels. Or should, at least. I don't know if they legally have to, depending on which country the game is made, I assume. But, in my mind, they have to.
Oh, yeah.
But for a lot of people, I assume, a lot of gamers that are triggered by that, I assume that they, have those like resources online, websites and stuff where you can search up specific moments or times or whatever where those kinds of things happen. And most games are pretty playable, even though they have that for like 3 seconds, right? Or even if it's like for one whole cutscene, you can skip that cutscene and then, you're kind of good to go. And as long as you have somebody by you to kind of fill you in on the plot that you missed, or you have like Wikipedia pulled up, or, you have the ability to keep playing.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in this, I assume it would be really frustrating for people that have been hyped to play it, and then they go down to play it, and it's not a cheap game. And then they go to play it, and they don't see the warning because it's not obvious, and then realize that they're, hopefully they're able to not, get triggered by it, and they're able to like get themselves out of the situation before it gets bad. And then they go online to search up if it's just like that one moment, and then they realize that it's the entirety of the game, and they've already like purchased it, and it wasn't fairly warned. That's frustrating.
Yeah. So at least they've said they're doing something about it. So there's a lot more work going into the game.
Yeah.
But that's just a little bit more of the controversy surrounding that game right now. Other than, a lot of pissed off people, there's now more pissed off people.
Yeah. I hadn't heard of that one, so that's interesting to know.
Now, granted, it does not excuse it in the slightest, but looking at the trailers and everything else that came out for the game, I felt like it was inevitable. It doesn't excuse it. Because you would think, just looking off the trailers, that they would have made more of a deal about it somewhere, instead of just tucking it into the license agreement.
No. I feel like warnings like that should be, like, when you, like, load up a game, I feel like it should be there, like, on the loading screen.
Well, I mean, Ubisoft's are, but a lot of other games aren't.
Yeah.
Because I know every time I load up Siege, there's an epilepsy warning. Every time I open up Valhalla, there's an epilepsy warning.
Yeah.
But others aren't as... they're not as prominent.
Yeah, I don't feel like that ruins the immersion of the game if it's on the loading screen, Yeah,
because if you're loading into the game, you already have to sit through a bunch of other bullshit that you don't want to have to sit through anyway.
Yeah.
Like publisher animations and the...
credit scenes.
Yeah, so therefore, you're there anyway, so just put up a little card that's there for like 5 or 10 seconds, because that's how long your fucking credit trailers are anyway.
Yeah.
So that should just come standard with... really any game, because if you make it standard for any game, then you're covered.
Yeah.
But again, what do we know? We're just idiots on the internet.
That's true. But yeah, okay, so we've had a good couple of rants about ourselves, about COVID, now about video games. But we have yet to discuss the very thing that we're here to discuss, which is anime. Do we have any news?
So before we get into the news, I gotta get something out. So... I have been hounded relentlessly over watching something very particular. So I'm here today on the, as of right now, because it has crossed over into the next day, the 12th of December, to discuss a couple episodes of Tokyo Mew Mew.
Dun, dun, dun.
So, to the person that has been on me about this, you know who you are. You asked for this. So, Tokyo Mew Mew is a little show that was made by the same studio that's done Bleach, Naruto, Tokyo Ghoul, which we've previously covered, etc. But it's older than a lot of those. And it's very obvious by for one, the most jarring thing that I noticed, the aspect ratio. It's in a 4:3 aspect ratio instead of the 16:9 that I'm used to.
Okay.
So I'm watching it on my phone and I'm squinting. I'm like, what is this?
What is this?
But, so I've been hounded relentlessly. Blue and I have said multiple times, it's too long. We're just not going to do it. But it kept on and kept on, so I was like, fine, fuck it. I'll watch 2 episodes because it's all I was asked to watch. So I watched those 2 episodes. Here are my thoughts. I don't know.
Okay.
It's odd because I feel like I'm watching Catgirl Sailor Moon.
Okay.
Now, don't get me wrong. It's the story of a girl who gets magical Catgirl powers, but it's very like Sailor Moon-esque transformations, and she's trying to save endangered species on the planet, but also saving the planet from aliens. I don't know. It's interesting.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's a trip, especially with the old like 90s animation and everything. It's It's interesting. I like it? Question mark?
Question mark? Do I like it or not? Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things that a lot of people would have a lot of nostalgia for.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have that same level of nostalgia, you can never really appreciate it as much as people that do.
Yeah, because apparently this show was absolutely massive whenever you and I were growing up.
Mm-hmm.
I had never heard of it until our mutual friend decided to talk to us about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually didn't start watching anime until I was pretty decently into my teen years. I, watched a little bit of Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And stuff and Digimon when I was a kid, but I wouldn't say I was ever, into them. I played the Pokemon games more than anything, collected Pokemon cards. Mm-hmm. But, I never watched, a lot of anime until I reached my teen years, and then that's when I kind of got a lot more, hardcore into anime. Mm-hmm. So I don't have, in general, nostalgia for a lot of things that people have nostalgia for. Naruto, the first time I watched that was, 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like Tokyo Mew Mew, for myself and yourself, is just kind of, one of those things that you had to be there, and we weren't there.
Yeah, it's weird for me, because I grew up watching Sailor Moon.
Yeah.
I know I've mentioned this multiple times on the podcast, but I very specifically remember going to Blockbuster and picking up a Dragon Ball and a Sailor Moon DVD. Not DVD, VHS. I'm that old. Anyway. So it was just one of those things of, it's that ingrained into me. I still remember the Sailor Moon OP. I still remember the transformation scenes. There's so much of it I still remember. So watching this, at least for the transformation scene, it feels like it's just that little bit of nostalgia for me. But then it's cat girls with superpowers, and she's also a maid in a cafe. Now, don't get me wrong. The treats in this cafe for a weekly show look pretty delicious. I could eat most of the stuff that I've seen coming out of that cafe. But that's about it. I don't know. I generally have a 3 to 4 episode rule for anime, and I meant to watch more of it before I sat down this evening to record this, but life happened. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, I don't hate it, but I don't love it either. Like I said, I like it with a question mark on it.
Yeah. Well, if you decide to watch more, you'll have to keep us posted on how your feelings develop.
I will, because it's, like I said, I don't hate it. It's not bad by any means, but it's just I don't have that nostalgia trip for it. So we'll see how life progresses.
Yeah, I also feel like the older animes were more slow burners. I feel like a lot of them take a while to get into. Mm-hmm. Whereas now we're kind of shoved, action-packed, storyline, heartfelt, get to know the characters. It's pretty shoved down our throats within the first 2 episodes.
Yeah, it's not just, oh hey, cat girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like that was a natural and necessary progression that needed to happen in anime, because it helped anime get through that reputation of being, otaku weeb stuff and become more mainstream. And I know a lot of people aren't necessarily happy about the fact that anime is becoming more mainstream, but I am to a certain extent. I mean, obviously I'm one of these people that has joined anime pretty decently recently compared to a lot of people who have been watching it for decades and decades. So I feel like a lot of people would be like, well, you're one of those who just got it because it went mainstream. And I mean, fair shout, sure, why not? I started watching only 7 years ago, so 7 or 8 years ago. So I feel like that's pretty recent. Mm. And I forgot my point. What was I going with? Oh yeah, no, natural progression. I feel like, it's needed it was needed to stray away from that. I still really like when modern animes come out and they have that old vibe to them. They have that feeling of, some of the older shows. And I love watching some of the older shows. Some of my favorite shows are from early 2000s, from the 90s, from, so even some from the 80s I've really enjoyed watching, especially some of the movies that came out then are really great. But I feel like a lot of that is very much of a thing that would only appeal to people who already like anime.
Agreed. It's not something that I could just openly suggest to someone that's just getting into anime.
Yeah.
Because I'm currently trying to get a lot of people around me into anime.
Yeah.
And we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, and it's not like you would start them off with Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah,
not that it's amazing, but it's not an entry-level anime show to most mainstream people.
Especially now, because I feel like starting them out with something that's that outdated, considering the stuff that Disney is outputting now.
Yeah.
It would be very jarring and very culture shocky.
Yeah.
But also, stuff back then was a lot more tropey, because that's what a lot of the tropes today are based off of. So it would kind of set a really bad example.
And I don't think they would also get the humor that we now have with those tropes, because when we watch those old animes and we see those tropes, it's kind of like a, oh, geez, you know, like when your dad tells a joke and it's kind of funny, but you don't want to admit that it's funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like those. And then, but like if you don't have that like knowledge of the tropes, or you don't have that like level of familiarity with them, you could just, I feel like you would just find them really annoying or offensive even.
Agreed. My brain just immediately just fried. I need coffee.
Love that.
But yeah, so now actual news?
Actual news.
So, funny piece of news to start it all off, because I saw this, I died laughing. I figured it'd be a good piece of news to start with.
Okay.
According to a poll, Japanese kids admire Tanjiro from Demon Slayer more than their parents.
Goals.
Right.
Yeah.
Literally, the tagline under it are, moms are out, kids are all about Tanjiro now.
That's really funny.
I read that and just lost it. I was like, I have to talk about this. I didn't give a shit about anything else that was in the article. I just read the headline and I was like, oh my god, that's how much Demon Slayer has just taken over.
That's really funny. 1 second, I'm just going to quickly turn my heater on because I'm freezing and I don't have my blanket because it's on the floor.
Aw, the poor Kami-sama is cold.
I'm cold. Okay, next piece of news. I want to know more.
So, Crunchyroll has officially been purchased.
Ooh.
Sony has officially acquired Crunchyroll for the fine tune of $1.175 billion in cash.
In cash.
Yeah, just in cash.
In cash. That's a big suitcase.
Like, Sony just walked up to AT&T. I would like to think that it's just the two CEOs meeting in person. One has a wheelbarrow just full of money. It's just like, here you go.
That seems like such a cartoon thing to happen.
Or a Mr. Beast thing to happen.
Yeah.
Because I think the dude literally, I think the dude literally bought a car with a wheelbarrow full of pennies, if I remember correctly.
He did that. Yeah, he did do that.
Yeah, so I did remember that. So, yeah, that's just such a Mr. Beast thing to do. So I don't think it's cartoony anymore. I like to imagine that's how all business transactions take place.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't, I'm going to be really disappointed.
Yeah, just a swimming pool full of money. Just like wheelbarrow after wheelbarrow getting poured into a swimming pool with the executive just sitting there in the swimming pool of money, laughing maniacally, drinking out of a champagne glass.
Either that, or he's in just one of the reclining pool chairs, just fanning himself with a butler standing beside him with a lemonade with a little umbrella
in it. Yeah.
Yep. Just look at all my money.
Look at all my money. Yeah. No, that's hilarious. But how do you feel about the price that, because we both kind of knew, I mean, we weren't excited for Sony to purchase Crunchyroll, but we both kind of knew it was going to happen.
It was going to happen. However, the fact that AT&T got more or got that much out of them, because they initially wanted to sell it for 1.2. And Sony balked at the idea and offered them $900 million instead. So the fact that they got close to their original asking price about it, I'm shocked. I'm happy that AT&T got that much out of it. But I don't know.
Yeah. It makes me wonder what else was in the contract to make it so that they got so much more close to their asking price, and who else was interested in purchasing Crunchyroll. Because, but it makes me wonder about that contract, whether there was a deal that Sony had asked for that they had said no, but because Sony had asked for that, they lowered the price or something, and then, the negotiations happened, so the contract changed, and, because I feel like there may have been a clause in there or something where they were like, Crunchyroll has to stay working with this particular production company, or making this particular type of thing, or looking this way for the next 5 years of ownership or something, as part of the contract in purchasing, and that may have been eliminated with the increase of price.
I'm not sure.
Mm.
I'm sure more details will come out kind of as time goes along and as the merger kind of gets closer to happening.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things. I still don't even know how I feel about it just because of the fact that with Sony now owning it, that puts Funimation and Crunchyroll under the same roof.
Umbrella, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not excited about it by any means, especially from the perspective of you and I both being voice actors and what that kind of does to the pool of, potential. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think that's, again, going to turn it into Funimation having the full dub rights to everything and then Crunchyroll just having subs instead of them having their own separate subs and dubs as what was happening, because they've only been split for, I think, maybe a year and a half now.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't been that long since they've just completely parted ways.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, it makes me really wonder whether or not Sony is going to use both of them, because there's two ways that they could go with this strategically. Sony could keep Crunchyroll and Funimation very separate and use them as a competition to each other to increase each other's, potential. You know, when, you have, a Mars bar and a Kit Kat, and you increase the Mars bar price so that then people buy the Kit Kat.
Mm-hmm.
And then you increase the Kit Kat price to make them on the same level, and then people just go back to buying both. And then you increase the Kit Kat price again, and then people will buy Mars, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Even though the same company owns both of them, and they're slowly just increasing the prices, they're using one to make it so that the other one works, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Sony could do that with Crunchyroll and Funimation. They could keep them separate and use them as competition to each other to increase consumer interaction.
Mm-hmm.
Or they could combine them and take a kind of monopoly on the English market of anime, which I personally don't think that they will do. I think they'll keep them somewhat separate. Or they could kind of go halfway in between, where they start doing things behind the scenes that are for the same and mutually beneficial, or using the same voice actors for both, using the same studios for Crunchyroll or Funimation made animes, or, doing stuff behind the scenes that are supposed to be more secret and that the regular consumer won't know about, that is a joint thing for both, and then on the surface level, having them be separate. And I don't know which one they're going to go with yet, but personally, I think it's probably going to be the third option, where they're going to try and keep them separate, but behind the scenes have a lot of stuff that's the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just one of those situations that only time is going to tell kind of how things are going to go.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm intrigued to see how the landscape and everything is going to change as time goes on.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I have two really good pieces of news to kind of wrap everything up.
Okay.
So we have two release dates for January that you and I are both incredibly excited about.
Oh, okay.
Dr. Stone has its official release date. I figured I'd start with this one because you were more excited about this one and I'm more excited about the second one.
That was the first thing that came into my brain when you said there's two release dates coming out. And I was like, I hope it's Dr. Stone.
Yep, so Dr. Stone has officially been slated to begin airing its second season on January 14th.
Oh, that's going to be good timing for me with my mom's surgery.
Everything's...
with my mom's surgery, and I have a psych appointment around then as well that I'm stressing about. But yeah, that's going to be a good timing for me to take a break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be good. Although I'm disappointed that all this is starting kind of once we'll start ramping back up again for the podcast. Because we're going to have a nice little 2-week break just because of, we're not having to just watch anything.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we're going to have that once we start ramping back up again. So it'll be harder for you to probably watch week to week. Mm-hmm. But then I won't be able to stop. I'll be like, I gotta watch.
And then you're going to be like, hey, Blue, watch it. Blue, hey, Blue. And I'm going to be like, okay, fine.
I mean, considering how packed January is and how much we're looking forward to everything, I feel like it's going to be hard for you not to, but also I'm literally going to be pestering you on release days.
Oh, yeah.
I hope you're prepared.
I am, and I'm also not.
But I am extremely excited because not only did we get a release date for Dr. Stone, but we also got a new key visual that you can find on our Instagram page if you want to take a look at it, because it is very hyping. I'm so excited. But we also got a trailer.
Oh.
And I sat down and gave the trailer a watch, and oh my goodness, shit's gonna be so good.
I'm excited.
I am so excited. We still don't have any news on whether it's gonna be 1 core, 2 core, or split core.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we'll see. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm so excited.
What was the first season again? The first season was 2 core, wasn't it?
It was 2 core, and it wasn't split core. It was just 2 core run back to back off one another. I could see them potentially doing split core with season 2, considering how soon it's been after the first season aired.
Yeah.
There's enough manga to where they could do 2 core, but if with as much as they've built up this one arc, I feel like a split core would almost make more sense.
Yeah, it would make sense to me that they do a split core, especially with the work from home thing that seems to be pretty standard, even though Japan is doing pretty well with their numbers right now. Mm-hmm. I feel like it would take a lot of pressure off of the studio to just make it a split core and, you know, spend the time working on it that they might not necessarily have elsewhere, because with Dr. Stone, more than other animes, there's a whole lot of research specifically in the science behind stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that it takes a lot more to make a weekly episode release, you know, of Dr. Stone than it does even for something like Demon Slayer that has an incredible animation budget, you know, like such a good storyline, all this kind of stuff, because Demon Slayer doesn't have the same level of actual research being needed to do it, because it creates its own lore as opposed to being based in something that can be fact-checked, you know?
Agreed.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that Dr. Stone prides itself on, is how everything in that show is factual. Like, everything they do is how stuff is legitimately made.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my brain died. I forgot where I was going with that. I feel like I had a point. But not nearly as pointy as those katanas, am I right?
Am I right?
But yeah, I started with that one. However, the next one I am much more excited for. Can you guess?
No, actually. My brain just shut off.
The second core for Re:Zero Season 2.
Oh, duh. Obviously.
It has officially been announced that it will begin airing on January 6th.
Oh, that's early.
It is early, but with The Promised Neverland on January 4th, I think. It's not too awful early. It's just a week sooner than Dr. Stone.
Yeah, I'm excited for The Promised Neverland as well.
There's so much to look forward to in January. It's just, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
But there's so much stuff that I'm going to be watching week to week. But with it being the second core, I need answers, man. It left on such a fucking cliffhanger. I just gotta know.
I got to know. Yeah, it did leave on a interesting point.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go into details or anything, because if you haven't seen any of the stuff that's coming out in January, whether it be Dr. Stone, The Promised Neverland, or Re:Zero, go watch it.
Yeah, I feel like we reviewed Dr. Stone decently early on in recording this podcast, so I feel like a lot of you guys probably haven't heard our episode on that, and I also don't know if you want to go back and listen to it, because we were pretty cringe back when we first started this podcast. But I
feel like we might have started to hit our stride with Dr. Stone.
Yeah, I feel like it was kind of around that time when we were fully getting into it. Dr. Stone is amazing, though, and I do highly recommend it. And yeah, if you haven't seen it, definitely go check it out and get hyped for the second season, because I think it's one of my favorite animes of all time, specifically one of my favorite modern animes of all time.
Mm-hmm. And it's definitely one of my favorite modern as well, just because it's so grounded in realism, yet it's very fantasy-esque. The animation is phenomenal. The comedy in it is perfectly timed. Everything about it is great, and just highly recommend watching it. It's so good.
Yeah, and I don't feel like you have to be specifically sciencey brained to be able to watch it and understand the science as well. Like, you can absolutely hate science, have failed every science class you've ever taken, and still watch it, feel entertained by it, and understand what they're talking about.
Stop taking shots at me, woman. I feel like that was immediately aimed at me, having failed so many science classes.
Actually, I never knew that you failed a science class.
I never actually failed one. I just made failing grades, but always managed to bring my grades back with pity from the teacher.
Yeah. I have never completed an individual science. How fun is that? I've only ever completed, like, science, as opposed to, like, biology, chemistry, physics, that kind of thing. Although, I did complete psychology, but that's not really counted as a science, because it's not one of the cores. It was, like, a elective that you could take.
Yeah, I guess it is more of an elective than an actual science, unless you go into college, and then it is actually a Bachelor of Science degree.
Yeah. But in my high school, it wasn't counted as a science. You had to still take 2 other sciences, and then you could take psychology on top.
Schools, get your shit together. Because it's the same way here. It's an elective, and it's not a science. You should make that a fucking science.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So technically, I've never completed a science course because I dropped out towards the end of my first semester of 11th grade and never finished biology that I was taking that semester. I also was at like 43% during that class by the time I dropped out. I didn't care. I was so done with school.
You sound like me in my first semester that I took Spanish.
Yeah.
Because I failed that so hard that literally Tyree, my best friend, and I had a race to see who could finish the final first, my Christmas tree. I hate to admit it, but I lost by 2 questions. But, you know, it's fine. Everything is fine.
It's fine.
I'm not upset. It's like bullshit.
I'll get revenge.
Revenge!
I'm looking at a Caramilk bar in front of me, and I think they've changed their packaging, and it's throwing me off.
Oh? Is it snack time?
It was snack time, but I didn't get to finish my snack time because it was too much sweet. So I ate 4 squares, and I have 6 squares remaining.
That's a very specific number of squares, but also I'm disappointed that it's 6 and not 5.
But then because they're in rows of 2.
Uh-huh. And?
So then you just have 1 floating around, because you can't break it on 2 corners.
Sure you can.
That's too much skill for me.
You know what? Valid. Just because it's you, that's valid.
Yeah, no, I can only break them in their rows. And then when I get to the last 4, I struggle.
Or you could just be a monster and just take a bite out of a Kit Kat bar.
Oh my god, people who do that are weird.
Or it's like people that eat string cheese without peeling the cheese. They just nom it.
I've done that a couple of times.
You
and
monster.
It always feels really weird. Anyways, next piece of news. Is there any more news?
No more news.
No more news!
So, shall we get into the background of our topic before we just bullshit the rest of the podcast?
Honestly, we are so on tangents today.
Yes. Yeah.
Shokugeki no Soma! The 5th plate.
Yes. So, as far as the background for the show goes, nothing has changed. But for those of you that didn't listen to the prior episodes where Blue and I covered seasons 1 through 4, all in one go, because we're mad people like that.
Yep.
Here you go. It was initially a manga written by Yuto Tsukuda. Mm-hmm. It ran for a total of 36 volumes from November 26th of 2012 to its end in August 29th of 2019. It is a shonen, go figure, and it ran in the Weekly Shonen Jump, also go figure. It has had 2 spin-off series, a spin-off manga, and then a spin-off light novel as well. The light novel has 3 volumes. The spin-off manga has 8 volumes. Mm-hmm. The TV show was made by JC Staff. Let me see what other shit they have done to make life simple. They have done Date A Live, one of my favorite harem anime of all time. Toradora, something we have scheduled for February that I'm super excited for you to watch because this is an absolutely lovely show. And they also did One Punch Man Season 2. Mm. So, yeah, they've had a hand in a lot of somewhat
pretty successful stuff.
Yeah, pretty successful stuff. That's the way to go. Because I know Date A Live is on its 3rd season with, I think, a 4th season in the works. So, for harem anime, it's excelling. But I can see why. It's such a likable show. Mm-hmm. So,
and then One Punch Man has a pretty decent reputation going on about it right now.
One Punch Man has a fucking cult following.
Yeah.
At least the 1st season. The 2nd season, it's questionable.
Yeah.
But that's mainly just because of the studio change. The fact that Madhouse didn't continue it, although that's what it's known for. That's a lot of people are pissed off about that. Mm-hmm. But anyway, back on track. Mm. So, the series was directed by Yoshitomo Yonetani. Maybe. I probably butchered the fuck out of that. But other things he has worked on, nothing big. At least as far as the director goes. Food Wars is all he's done that I even know of. So, yeah. Its run was from April 4th of 2015 until its official end on September 25th of this year, 2020, for a grand total of 86 episodes and 5 OVAs.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty big show. If you haven't seen it before, I don't know why you're listening to this podcast. No, I'm just kidding. If you haven't seen it before, I absolutely recommend it. The first season is definitely controversial when you first watch it. A lot of people decide that they hate it because of the first season, but it is really one of those ones where the first season is meant to kind of pick up a specific audience type. Mm-hmm. And it's, yeah, and then from there it progresses into a much more well-rounded show.
You know what it reminds me of?
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of Black Clover. Or Black Clover reminds me of this, rather.
Mm-hmm.
In that it's almost like the creators didn't take it seriously at first.
Yeah.
They just wanted to see what they could get away with. But then it picked up so much traction. They're like, oh shit, this is popular. We can actually make something of this.
Yeah, well, I can completely understand why they thought that, specifically with Food Wars, because it's a show about about teenagers that are making food so good that it's literally orgasmic.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have a friend of mine that she really enjoys anime. And she was thinking about giving Food Wars a shot. So she messaged me on Facebook and she was like, hey, what's your thought on Food Wars? And I was like, excuse you, it's fucking great.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, honestly, it's my favorite food-centered anime of all time. She's like, wait, it's your favorite? There's more than one? I was like, yeah. Think of the genre we're talking about here. It's anime. There's multiple of everything, except for rock climbing. There's only one that I know of.
I only know of quite a few different types of sports genres.
Mm-hmm. But yet, it's still sports. So it's still sports, more of a broad, it's a very broad topic. So was
food is, much more broad. It's not like they're making, I suppose there are, like, there's a couple where it's like there are baking or like patisserie or like cafe-scented food animes. But Shokugeki no Soma Food Wars is like the only anime that I can think of that is food-based that covers the vast majority of food.
Well, Food Wars, Sweetness and Lightning is about cooking. It's not food in general, but then again, this show is about cooking. Restaurant to Another World. There's a couple other manga that I've read that are very...
Spirits.
Yeah.
There's that one about bread that I keep watching random episodes of. There's a couple reverse harems that I think are based on those, like, video games where you choose people that you want to be your boyfriend. You know those ones?
Oh, fucking romance visual novels.
Yeah, those. And there's like a couple of those where they made an anime season to advertise for the visual novel.
And
so like, yeah, and so like the main character like goes around and like interacts with all the boys like twice throughout the entire show, and then never actually gets close to any of them because they want you to play the game, and then get close to them and choose who you want there, and it's like just an advertising thing. I know there's a couple of those.
Interesting. But yeah, hands down though, Food Wars is by far my favorite food anime of all time. So if you haven't seen it, outside of the first season, don't get me wrong, the first season is good, but after you've seen everything up to the point that Blue and I have seen, first season kind of a lot of cringe.
The first season for me has that kind of like sense of extreme hilarity to it because it's so bizarre that your brain just kind of malfunctions while you watch it and you can't stop watching it. At least that's how it was for me. It was like I was watching it and I was like, this is nuts, and I'm hooked.
Oh, the first time I watched the first season through, I was immediately hooked because it was so outlandish. I started watching Food Wars, I think, right as the second season was wrapping up.
Yeah.
So I binge watched the first season and binge watched the second season, I think all in a matter of like a week.
Yeah.
Because it's just, it'll hook you. It's odd. It's outlandish. It's a fucking acid trip, but
100%.
It's lovable. It's great. The comedy always, or 95% of the time, sticks. There's just so much to love about the show. watch the sub. Do not watch the dub. The dub sucks.
Yeah, I've never seen the dub. But yeah, like the first season is definitely not comparable to the rest of the anime in the sense that the rest of the anime is very much more of a serious anime. Like, the plot is more well-rounded, the characters are more developed, the animation style actually changes throughout the anime as the characters grow, which is one thing I genuinely really appreciate throughout the entire anime.
Mhm.
Something I don't see enough of. And especially in like high school based animes, kids change so much, teenagers change so much from year to year.
Mhm.
And it was really nice to see a high school based anime where they visually change.
Agreed. It's just a really nice touch to actually see that out of the show. Because it just shows a lot of care was put into it.
Yeah. And so yeah, watching this final season, it was kind of like a bittersweet thing, I think, for a lot of people, because it was when Food Wars first started, it was kind of a secret. It was one of those animes that like people watched and were immediately turned off of.
Mm-hmm.
And because a lot of people were immediately turned off of, the people that continued to watch it kind of protected it. It was like, oh, well, this is our little thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second season came out and a lot more people were like, okay, people are really like raving about this. And they jumped on it and started to watch it as well. And then by the time the third season came around, it was like everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I feel like, I don't know, if you're going to start watching it, the first season is extreme, it's insane, it's certainly something. I find it hilarious. A lot of people wouldn't. If you don't find yourself liking the first season, I do recommend pushing through it to try the second season. If you still find yourself not liking the second season, don't keep watching. But I personally think that I think it's amazing.
Not only that, but give it a few episodes in the first season as well. The first couple of episodes are where the vast majority of the cringe takes place.
Yeah.
And then after that, it kind of starts working on itself a little bit. But by the time you get into the second season, it's a whole new animal.
Yeah.
But that's all the background.
It's all the background. Okay, so I think we kind of went into an overview, but I'm going to go a little bit more into a detailed overview, specifically about character names, stuff like that. So it's based around specifically Soma, who is a young, when the series starts, he's a freshman in high school. And it starts off with him going to take his entrance exams to a food cooking school. And it's about him making friends, dealing with the atmosphere of the school, the intensity of the school, also learning a lot about his own history and the people that he grew up around, and like things about himself that he never knew that are like really important in this world of cooking that he just didn't know existed. And then it's about him learning specifically about and then it's about these like Shokugekis, which are fights or like battles between chefs where they battle it out with a panel of 3 judges. The judges then decide who is the best chef, and that person wins, and that's how the whole school functions.
Mm-hmm.
So, spoiler chicken hat's on if you haven't seen up to the 4th season and the 5th season. Up to the 4th season. I'm going to start spoiling the 4th season now. So if you haven't seen the 4th season, go watch that. Then watch the 5th season. But, Then a bunch more stuff happens, and now we're at the beginning now we're like a time when everything has gone crazy. Soma is now the first seat at the school, and leading up into the 5th season, shit's gotten real, really, honestly. And at the very end of the 4th season, a mysterious man kind of appeared. And it was kind of like 4th season kind of wrapped up a bunch of stuff, like a huge arc ended, and then it left on the cliffhanger of this random dude showing up. And I remember us talking about that and being like, I don't know how, you remember we were saying that we didn't know how we felt about them just like sliding this guy in at the end of the 4th season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in the 5th season is based on this mystery guy, and I'm not going to spoil anything right now, but it's based on this mystery guy, and it's based on a competition that includes a few of the now Elite 10 and Erina as well. And it's basically a mission for specifically Soma and Erina, I feel like, more than anybody else, to really come into themselves with their cooking and confidence. Although Soma kind of already was there, and this season was just kind of him proving it, as opposed to Erina, this is like more character development for her.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to put on the full spoiler hat. So if you haven't seen season 5, go watch it. Full spoiler hats are on now. So, season 5. I didn't take any notes while watching it. I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. I sat down to watch it again. I watched the first few episodes week to week. Then I got, life got crazy and I stopped watching it week to week. It wasn't that things got dull or anything. I think what it was is there was a couple of moments where things got really, really intense and I needed to pause and take a break. I actually stopped watching mid-episode because I needed to pause and take a break because things got overwhelming, and sometimes that happens to me. Like, I'll be watching a show and things just get too much and I need to just take 5 minutes, so I'll go and, like, make a cup of coffee or something. And whilst I was doing that, I obviously got distracted and never came back to the episode. So
question.
Yes.
Was it episode 1 or 2 that this happened?
It was episode 2.
So I guarantee you I know the reason why that you stopped watching it.
There was a specific moment in it that caused me to just be like, I need a breather. And yeah, I never went back to it.
Actually, I would almost beg to differ that it wasn't even that. So did you notice anything whenever you're looking at the Wikipedia pages about when this episode released in the next episode? It was announced when this episode aired that the show was going to be delayed for a season because of COVID.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So I must have paused it mid-episode. Then that's exactly what happened. I remember I paused it mid-episode and was going to go back to it, and then it got delayed. And so then there was no point me going back to it.
Yeah, because I messaged you and I was like, son of a bitch.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what happened. Okay, thank you for reminding me. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I could see you stopping for the reasons that you mentioned as well. However, I was looking at it because I thought it was episode 3 when it got delayed, but I was wrong. It was episode 2.
It's episode 2. Yeah, so no, that's exactly why. So I got overwhelmed, and then whilst I was overwhelmed, I obviously got a message from Brad saying, hey, it's been delayed. And then I thought, well, there's no point me continuing watching it, so I'll just wait. And then I waited, and waited, and waited, and waited, and now we're covering it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't actually take any notes. So what I did was I watched the whole season, and I then went onto Wikipedia and I saw their footnotes on the episodes, and I used that as reference to build these notes. So these aren't anywhere near as detailed as my notes normally would be, but our last Food Wars episode was super freeform, so I decided to try and I was lazy, and then because of that, we are now keeping this one also super freeform as well. So actually, let us know what kind of episode you prefer. Do you prefer the ones with, like, the more structured notes? Or do you prefer these ones where I just kind of, like, take very basic stuff off of, like, Wikipedia or from episode descriptions and stuff, and we go off of that and just kind of, like, freeform it a little bit more? Let us know. But yeah, episode 1 is called Final Exam, and it's based on Soma and the Elite 10 taking their exams on the beach, where they have to come up with 3 million yen profit within 3 days. The rest of the grade are given existing restaurants, whilst they get a rundown shack. New teacher Suzuki, mystery dude from the end of the last season, is super sus, and when they are actually able to open the restaurant on the 3rd day, it's not an actual shack anymore, but because they had to spend, like, the first 2 days, like, not making it a shack. And they're able to gather the hordes due to their smelly yakisoba. But wait, they can't have a summer holiday because I stop them. Wahahaha. Because I'm blue. Get it?
So this whole season's about you.
The whole season is about me. They go to a food cooking competition, or, like, they're gearing up to go to a food cooking competition called Blue, which was hilarious to me when I was watching it, because I was like, yes, I will eat your food and tell you who's better.
I mean, honestly, though, I would have loved to have been present for all the stuff in this cooking competition.
I think there was only, like, 2 dishes that I would have been able to eat.
But you've said it yourself. If you went to Japan, you would break your oath.
That's true.
And try things. So I think everything in the show,
I still wouldn't have eaten the shark fin soup. That's the one thing I wouldn't have eaten, which was, like, semifinals. There was a shark fin dish thing that was included, and I refused to eat that because sharks are my favorite animals.
I could see that.
Don't touch my babies. I love sharks. I have a shark onesie. It's my favorite thing.
I was going to say, if you don't have one of those, I will buy you one.
Yeah, no, I have a shark onesie. I have a Lego shark that my mum got me for Christmas last year, because that's how obsessed with sharks I am, that at 22 years old, my mum was like, here, have a Lego shark. Enjoy it. And I was like, this is the best thing ever.
But honestly, though, it's going to make shopping for you for gifts so much easier on me.
You know what made me so upset? I found a face mask that was a shark mouth, and I was so excited. And then I looked, and it was for kids only. It was kid size. And then I've been searching everywhere for an adult-size shark face mask, and they don't have one, and I'm so upset.
Have you looked at one of those sites to where you can create your own?
No, I haven't. That's a good idea.
You're welcome.
I want a shark mask.
Do it.
Yeah. Anyway, episode 2, the blue preliminaries. The blue preliminaries. Erina has a special invite to the blue competition, but the others don't. So they've got to battle it out and get one of the 3 spots to get through, because there's only 3, and there's like hordes of people that are really good. So they have a big ol' fight thing with the theme being soup, and the whole gang beef it out. And it turns out that Soma, it's because I said soup. Soupma. Soma ends up getting 3rd, Takumi gets 2nd, and Megami gets 1st.
Surprise!
Soma's dad gets beat? What? That's where I paused the episode. That was where I was like, nope, not happening.
I mean,
Juichiro
honestly though,
beat.
that was just right off the bat too, and this was the episode that we got left on.
Yeah. It was like, no, you cannot do this.
Yeah, because you and I were just absolutely gearing up to watch the hell out of this. And you and I were both watching it week to week.
And we were both gearing up to see Soma finally be able to beat his dad. And it was like, there was no way in hell that I was expecting somebody else to beat Juichiro. The only person I was expecting was Soma to finally win.
Mm-hmm. Because we had all the stuff of Dojima beating Saiba while they were in school, but we never actually saw it.
Yeah.
So to actually see Joichiro lose, that was, ooh boy.
Yeah. And Suzuki challenges Soma and wants to marry Erina. What? What? Yeah, this at the time was creepy. By the end of the season, it's twice as creepy.
Yeah, it was even worse.
Yeah.
But it's
I give him a pass for what happens at the end of the season because he was oblivious up until the very end of the season. So he didn't know.
Everyone was oblivious except for fucking Erina's dad.
I don't even know if he knew until after, because this is one thing that I didn't pick up while watching the show, but then I went onto Wikipedia to take notes and saw about this, and I don't know if I was just distracted during this point of the show, or I just didn't pick up on it, but I suppose I shouldn't get into this now, we should get into it later. Okay, we will return to this conversation.
Yes, because Blue and I had 2 very different thoughts whenever it came to this particular topic, and come to find out, I was the one who actually got distracted, because I'm a big old fucking idiot.
But then there's a whole nother level that I was even distracted on, because I'm a big old idiot, that we both missed.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, so I want to talk about that with you and see your thoughts in a second. But yeah, let's beef through this and then we can get to theories and such.
Beef.
Episode 3. Beef. I smell like beef. Have you seen that Vine?
No.
There's a little kid who's staring out the window and he's crying and nobody knows why. I smell like beef.
Beef or chicken? Beef or chicken? Beef or chicken? Oof. Beef.
Beef. Yeah, okay, we're weird. Let's go. Episode 3, Noir. Suzuki versus Soma commences. Suzuki kicks Soma's ass? What? Suzuki is actually called Asahi Cyber, and Erina declines his proposal, so he bets her into it, basically. And it turns out that he was actually Joichiro's only student other than Soma, but Soma's his son, so it don't really count. Noir is an underground cooking gang, and Asahi is the leader of it. Joichiro finally tells Soma the secret to cooking, which just so happens to be cook for a person you care about, or something like that. Make food for somebody specific in mind.
Yes.
That's the secret to cooking, that it took 5 seasons to find out. That we knew, like, a while ago. But yeah, he finally tells him. And so Soma's like, cool.
The power of love is bullshit.
It's the power of love. Why did I feel like I sounded like Jessie from Team Rocket then?
I mean, honestly, that's kind of what it sounded like.
I need to perfect that, and then I can have conversations between Jessie and Ash.
Honestly, though, it's I forget who I was talking to the other day, but I was like just splitting in between all of my accents and impersonations all at once, and they were just so enthralled by it. They're just like, oh my god, how does he do it? And I'm like, you just, for one, have to be really good at bullshitting, but two, you just have to like get good enough at transitioning to where your brain can automatically switch for you.
Yeah.
After
you do a voice for a while, it just becomes super comfortable and you just don't even like think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okie dokie. Episode 4, The Last Supper. Soma, Megami, and Takumi start the prelims. Erina, Cyber, and some of the Noir members all get bumped to a different level in the competition, leaving the trio at the start. Soma has to cook a gang chef's last meal, and Erina has been forced to battle every eliminated chef. The trio pass the first stage, and Tsukasa's also there as well, the previous first seat. Episode 5, Convenience Store Brawl. They have to make a gourmet dish from konbini food and they gotta make it so good that it's worth $100. Like, it's gotta be a gourmet dish. They gotta make $100 profit. Soma fails his first try, but Tsukasa shows him what he's supposed to kind of aim for, and Soma passes on his second try. Albini and Megami pass too, and Erina is then has to face the eliminated contestants of round 2 as well. Round 3 then begins, and the bookmaster tells them that the winner will become her personal chef. Okay, both of us, I think, kind of had in mind who we thought the bookmaster was going to be. Were your assumptions correct?
Yes.
Mine were as well, but it took me a little while to get there.
You see, I saw it, and because at this point, we knew everything had to wrap up in this season.
Yes.
And everything we talked about at the end of our last episode where we covered Food Wars. Mm-hmm. We laid out everything that we needed to know going into this. And the first thing we talked about, I figured out right off the bat, and which I think I broke to you as well, about who Asahi was.
Mm-hmm.
Because you didn't catch it because you didn't watch the ED whenever you watched the first couple of episodes. So I think I dropped that bomb on you.
Mm-hmm.
Because it spoils who Asahi is right off the bat with the ED in season 5 before it actually tells you, and that set me off, and I told Blue.
Mm-hmm.
But then we never saw Soma's mother, we never saw Erina's mother, and there's just so many questions, and even Soma's scar we never had explained.
Yeah, and we were, like, at the end of our last podcast episode, those were all things that we had brought up.
Mm-hmm. And so everything just kind of slowly started ticking off in order. So the second that we had this random mysterious woman that we had no clue who it was, my brain just immediately latched onto it. And I was like, I know who that is.
Yeah, see, I knew it was going to be somebody's mom. I just didn't know it. I couldn't remember if Soma had said that his mom had died, or if, like, because there was this air of mystery around her, and I couldn't remember if she had died or not. And so I was like, is it his mom or is it Erina's mom? And then when the picture came across and you first saw Soma's mom's face for the first time, which I think happened in like episode 3 or 4, that's when I was like, okay, so it's not his mom, it's Erina's mom.
Mm-hmm.
So I was on the right track, but I wasn't like, oh, it's Erina's mom right off the bat. But yeah, so they have to make episode 6, A Midsummer Christmas. 3 noir chefs pass easily with their weird methods. You got Chainsaw Girl, you got Wolverine Dude, except I think he was more like, is it Sabretooth that's Wolverine's brother? And I feel like he has the one with the nails, or is that the chick that's got like the spiky nails?
It's the chick had the chainsaw, you had the dude that had the claws, and then you had...
And then there's the clown.
You had the clown with the balls, and then you also had the other dude that had, like, the fucking needle injector for blood.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that dude. Yeah, you got the needle injector for blood. But yeah. And then later on, you also have the shaker dude as well, with his Marty shaker.
That guy. Oh, yeah. My lord.
Yeah. Don't think you could get away with that with American TV.
No, you would be ostracized for that.
Yep, that episode was, if that was not made in Japan, would be incredibly controversial, which I want to bring up later.
Yes.
But yeah, so you got Chainsaw, Wolverine, and Clown, who pass easily. However, the trio aren't phased and also pass easily as well. Soma then faces Chainsaw in a Shokugeki, and their theme is Christmas cake. The theme is Christmas cake. She is pulling out all the stops with, like, bombs and the chainsaw and, like, something else. I don't know. There was a bomb, a chainsaw, and she also whipped out some other kind of thing to make her Christmas cake. And the noir chefs actually have a really good reputation with the audience. The audience is loving what they're doing and not so much liking the kind of straight-laced chefs of everybody else. They're liking these underground chefs. Episode 7, Cross Knives. Soma is declared the winner because he took into account the current climate, because they're in summer, but they're making a Christmas cake. And he took that into account, whereas she didn't. And then Joichiro and Grandpa end up talking about Soma's cooking history and the fact that he, like, knew to take into account that because of the fact that he grew up in a diner and therefore knew, like, how to take into, like, account what your customers wanted and stuff. It actually very much reminded me of the battle that Soma had between himself and Joichiro, where he was making a food to, like, a breakfast food to wake up.
Oh, yeah, the breakfast where Joichiro just showed up at the dorm, and so they cooked for Megami, the
old lady. Yeah.
And then fucking Isaki.
Yeah. It reminded me of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like that's kind of... Because they were talking about his history with cooking because of growing up in a diner and having to adapt to your customers. But I also feel like he learned a lot. I feel like that was also one of those moments where, you know, that could have been taken into account as well, you know?
But let me just say, out of both of those dishes, I would have much rather have tried Chainsaw Girls.
It looked very fancy.
It looked like I just wanted to take a bite out of it. I know my stomach would not have agreed with it, because that's
I feel like it would have been lighter
sweet.
than... yeah, because they were talking about the fact that Soma didn't actually make his sweet at all, and that's why it was served in summer, even though it looked like it would be sweeter because it looked really rich in chocolate.
Yeah, because his was naturally sweet, whereas hers was just sugar.
Yeah, even though hers was, like, vanilla-y, strawberry based, as opposed to his being, like, heavily chocolate. Mm-hmm. But because she was using, like, sugar, I feel like, yeah, it would have been much more sweet, whereas he sweetened it with, like, Japanese yams and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Tsukasa and Asahi are paired for the next round, and Asahi wants his grater to add to his collection. Cross knives engaged. Asahi wins. Aldini is up next in a team fight, but his twin is missing. What did you think about Tsukasa losing?
I mean, it was to be expected.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it was in a fashion that you would expect, though.
Yeah.
Because it's leading Asahi into being this biggest badass that can take the specialties of people whenever he takes their knife and cross it with his own to create something super unstoppable and unbeatable.
Mm-hmm.
So it was to be expected, and it's still, like, Tsukasa still put up a hell of a fight with it. Everybody loved his stuff, but this whole arc was essentially building Asahi to eventually go up against Soma.
Mm-hmm.
So they're trying to build him into this unstoppable little shit.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like, especially with the way that Tsukasa left the school in season 4, he's kind of in a sort of vulnerable state in cooking at the moment because he's exploring himself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like it was absolutely expected because, like, he had to progress through the competition. But I also feel like they did it in a way to make it so that it wasn't damaging on Tsukasa's character and skill level. Because in your brain, you have this thing of like, oh yeah, but he's transitioning right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, not only that, but none of the losses that occur in this season are damaging in any way.
No. Yeah.
Because it's an elite competition. So if an elite battles an elite and it's, you know, nose to nose like a brawl and someone ends up losing, no one's damaged by that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was a pretty even competition throughout. which I enjoyed. There were a couple of times where there was a clear difference in skill level, like with Aldini versus Erina.
Yeah, that one, and then Megumi and
Asahi.
Yeah, those two were both very clear differences.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have an upset for the next one that is, there's very clearly a difference, but the upset makes up for it.
Yeah, agreed. And, by this point in the show, I don't know if you felt this or if it was just me, but after Soma lost to Asahi in the second episode, you know that he's not going to. This is the last season. You know that it's all wrapping up. You know that if he faces him again, it's a guaranteed win. So I feel like you needed a loss of a character that you didn't expect was going to lose to happen throughout this season to make it so that it didn't feel like it was too predictable.
We can get to it once we get everything wrapped up, because there's one way I would have much preferred to have seen this take place.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll get to that whenever we get there. Because I agree with what you said in that you knew in the end Soma was going to come out on top.
Yeah.
However, whenever that time came in the episode, if you read the title of the episode and you also know that the show doesn't care to make Soma lose, I was even like, oh shit, are they really going to do it? And then have Erina be the one to take down Asahi?
Yeah, because that was plausible, specifically with the name of episode 11.
Yeah, because I read the episode title before I started it, and I was like, are they really going to go that route? Because I suspected they might.
Mm-hmm.
Because especially the way that they were telling the story up to that point, but we'll get there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel like they definitely named that episode on purpose to freak you out.
It threw me for a loop.
Episode 8, The Missing Half of the Moon. So Dawn has kidnapped Isami, and this is the episode where this wouldn't fly in Western countries. Yeah, this wouldn't fly. So he can't help Takumi. And they're making a parfait type thing. It's like a layered, it's an amuse-bouche. It's like a little meal that you have before your appetizer. And I think it's like a verene or something. I don't know. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like a parfait thing is what they both choose to make.
Yeah.
But they're not necessarily sweet. I think one of them is savory.
Like a layered, savory appetizer type thing that looks like a parfait because it's like a gelatin style setup.
Yeah, and it's in the glass thing, and you look at the layers and stuff. Yeah. And that's what they're making. And because Isami has been kidnapped, Takumi doesn't have a partner, and the Don guy is making his thing, and he actually makes it and finishes it and serves it before Soma steps in to actually help Takumi. And they win with their yin-yang looking thing. So instead of doing horizontal stripes, they ended up doing a vertical thing and made it like a yin-yang thing. It was pretty cool. And they have really good teamwork because of the constant competition. They end up having
competition.
Competition. They have really good teamwork because of the constant competitions that they have been having over the last year specifically, but basically since Soma arrived at the school in first year. Because, Takumi was his first rival. So, yeah, that's,
I disagree
Erina,
slightly, yeah.
Yeah. But Takumi was the first rival that he went up against head-to-head, because Erina and him hadn't, cooked for each other. Soma had served her food by the time that Takumi came in, but, he hadn't eaten hers.
Yeah, but still, I pretty much figured from the very beginning where she said his food was disgusting and he was just like, oh, I'm going to make you say it's delicious one of these days. I was like, boom, rival.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But then Takumi comes along and I was like, boom, another rival.
Another rival. Yeah. But I'd say that Takumi is the first one that he went head to head against.
Yeah.
And so they've been having a bunch of different competitions. Kuga and Satoshi have rescued Isami, and the gang finds Erina, and the bookmaster tells her that the God's Tongue has no place here, and Erina is acting weird. But yeah, the bookmaster says, ain't no place for God's Tongue. And yeah, Erina's acting all sorts of weird. I mean, I would probably be acting all sorts of weird if some random dude came up to me and said, I'm gonna marry you. Let's bet on it. I would probably be acting weird too, but like...
Yeah, same.
But she's acting extra weird. And episode 9, The God's Tongue's Despair. Erina easily wins her first 1v1 and is now it's Megumi's turn. She is facing Wolverine dude, Hyung. And Megumi wins through her lunch ladder. And platter. And yeah, they had like a 15-minute time limit thing, and they had to like pop it out quick. And Megumi wins because she's comfy. So, she is though, that's why she wins. She wins because she's comfy.
Yeah.
The gang go to confront the bookmaster, but Erina is already there. She's Erina's mother. I called it in brackets.
Yeah, that's whenever I text you and I was like, I called it.
Yeah. As soon as I got to that point, I was like, I know what that message was about. Yeah. Her name is Mana, which always just made me think of Diablo, but sure. I don't know why Diablo specifically, considering a lot of things in mana potions and like mana in general, but it specifically made me think of Diablo. She can't eat food. Basically what happened is when the god tongue develops far enough in life, the palate gets so sensitized to food and like overused and like used to gourmet stuff, and the palate keeps developing and developing because everybody's palate develops throughout life. And as her palate develops, the god's tongue palates develop, it makes it to the point where they like can't keep food down. Food is too disgusting for them to be able to keep down. And so that's kind of why she was throwing this competition, and specifically why she called in Noir all of these underground, like, dirty chefs that are stealing food from other places and only cooking for, like, gang, leaders and all that kind of stuff, because she's tried all of the mainstream chefs and none of them were able to create anything that she could actually eat. And so she called in all of these, like, underground chefs to be able to see if they could make something for her to actually find palatable, and that's also why one of the rewards for the competition is to become her personal chef. But it's also another reason as to why she was saying that the god's tongue has no place there, because the god's tongue can't create food that can surpass the god's tongue, in her opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So, Erina and her mom have a wonderful relationship.
So wonderful.
So wonderful. Takumi faces Erina, Megumi faces Asahi, and Megumi actually puts a further challenge on Asahi after she overhears him being a dick to Erina, and Asahi was like, okay, if I win, you can't be friends with Erina, and Megumi's like, okay, but if I win, then you need to, like, lay off. He wins, and Erina wins as well, and then Asahi says, instead of you not being friends with Erina, I want you to deliver a message, and I can't remember what that message was. It was like...
So the message was, and it wasn't even deliver a message, it was, instead of you not being able to be friends with her, you're going to tell her that I have your blessing to marry her. I was like, oh, that's dirty.
Yeah. You're going to support this marriage. It's like, ew.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah. But yeah, they both win, and Soma ends up standing up for Erina, and I'm sure this makes the Soma Erina fan boys and girls swoon at this moment.
I mean, I swooned.
Did you swoon? Did Soma
swoon you off your feet? That was my biggest ship out of this whole show, was those two.
Yeah, because that's what we were talking about at the end of season 4, is that we both kind of knew that this is the direction that they were going to take, but I remember in season 1, a lot of people were shipping Soma with Megumi.
And honestly, I still can, but after episode 13 of this season, I couldn't anymore.
Yeah, I feel like this season specifically made, and maybe some of the last season as well, you start to see this kind of like sibling relationship between Megumi and Soma.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like now, if somebody tried to ship them, even without the relationship with Soma and Erina, I think I would still find it a little bit, I don't know, awkward, if awkward's the right word. I would find it a little bit like, oh, this doesn't quite fit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely doesn't fit as well. But like I said, episode 13 just the way it ends, puts that nail in the coffin for me.
Yeah, I feel like Megumi needs someone who is maybe a little bit more rough around the edges. Like, I feel like she needs someone that's Because, I mean, she grew up in a fishing town surrounded by fishermen. I feel like she can handle some big personalities. And not that Soma isn't a big personality, but I could see her being with someone that's more, like, brooding and, you know, grumpy.
Ryu.
Yeah, honestly.
Because Alice and...
Spicy Boy.
Spice Boy. So either that or I could see Megumi and Takumi.
Oh, they would be cute.
I feel like that just work well together.
Yeah, and they would make some damn good food. Comfy Italian food? Boy.
Could you imagine just eating pizza and just wanting to take a nap?
Yes, I can imagine that. That's like, I wish that was my life every day.
Yes, please. But then who does Isami get?
The butcher girl. The one with the red hair. The wild game girl.
No, because that's Tsukasa.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I thought you were going to go with the secretary, whose name I can't remember now.
Oh, she would be cute. I can't remember her name either. We're doing so bad with names. But then, like, those guys were very, very briefly shown throughout this season. It was specifically mainly about Erina and Soma, and then Megumi and Takumi were, like, in it somewhat. But even in, like, the early rounds of the preliminaries, even though, like, Megumi and Takumi were supposed to be in it with Soma along the same stages, they were split off into different groups pretty much every time.
And they all kind of got their own episode to shine, because after those episodes to shine individually, there was no more.
Yeah.
It was all just Soma, 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 Soma.
Yeah. So, like, yeah, this is very much a season surrounded by him. You get very little, like, side plots, except for the villain. And then Erina.
But that's kind of what it needed, because you've had all your opportunities for growth going into this point.
Yeah, 100%.
My biggest complaint with the season was that it felt kind of rushed. I feel like the season could have been too core and everything could have been drug out a little bit.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see it being too core quite comfortably.
But I don't feel like it could have been more than that, and maybe not even 2 core, maybe a core and a half.
I wouldn't have minded having, if you did it a core and a half, I wouldn't have minded having the rest of that half be the storyline of everyone else working on the stuff behind the scenes that we got a glimpse of at the end of episode 13 that they kind of spoke about and, like, showed a bit, but they didn't actually go into detail, because I think that it would have been pretty sick to get some, like, OVA-style episodes of those guys going in and, like, destroying Noir from the inside.
Or honestly, just a whole episode, because I feel like everything else taking on during Blue could have been another 5 episodes, maybe.
Yeah.
Because especially the last 2 Shokugekis, I feel like could have been full episode and a half to 2 episodes apiece. In fact, I feel like they needed to be a full 2 episodes. I'm fine with everything being as it is. It's just, I could have used more. A little unsatisfied? No, because the ending was very satisfying. I just feel like I could have used for more. It was like, my brain is like, you know, you should really go back for seconds, but you're full. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
You got room for dessert, and there ain't no dessert.
Yeah.
But yeah. Episode 10, Surpassing Dad. Erina explains that the curse of the God's Tongue, which I actually explained earlier, but there you go. And Erina begins to doubt herself and Soma, and even more, and she's basically starting to put her reliance on Asahi. Soma, Erina, and Asahi advance quickly through the brackets, and you don't even get to see that, they just kind of, like, skip through it, until the last semi-final. They don't actually show Erina's semi-final, you only get to see the semi-final between Asahi and Soma, and it's just assumed that Erina's already passed hers. And the, what did I write there? Oh, the gangs. The whole gang. I was like, what did I write? What is that word? The whole gang's there to support Soma, which is nice. You get to see all the other faces pop up from previous seasons. And the theme is the 5 grand cuisines. Now, I have a quiz for you. Can you name all 5?
Italian.
Yes.
French.
Yes.
Indian.
Yes.
Chinese.
Yes. The last one's tricky. Think Thanksgiving and Christmas. The main thing you have.
Turkish.
Yeah! Turkish.
It's so odd. Like, I would have assumed Greek before they went with Turkish. But that's the way my brain thinks, because I'm more used to seeing Greek food than I am Turkish food. Yeah,
Turkish food is not very common in North America at all. You're way more likely to see a Greek restaurant than you are Turkish.
And it's one of those things, too, to where I feel whenever I see food blogs from around the world and everything else, that Turkish isn't really mentioned that often. Neither is Greek. So whenever I heard the 5 grand cuisines, I was like, hold the fucking phone.
I feel like probably some of the reason for that is the influence of Turkish food as opposed to the popularity of Turkish food. Because I expect it's probably had a huge influence in like the way that spices are done, yogurts, things like that are incorporated into food as opposed to like mass consumer market.
Yeah.
And Soma's deemed the underdog. The crowd are loving Asahi. They have been backing him since the first round, and we're back to Soma being the underdog, which has been a while since we've had underdog Soma. Which is kind of nice. It's nice that they end it the way that it started, with him just being a diner boy.
There were so many throwbacks in this season that my heart just couldn't take it. I was like, yes, give it to me.
Yes, a throwback. And episode 11. This is the tricky one. This is the one that makes you doubt what's going to happen during this season, because it is titled The Taste of Failure. Dun, dun, dun. The match continues. Mana ends up trying Asahi's dish, and the gifting happens. So Soma's like, ain't over yet. Try mine too. And she tries his, and the gifting also happens. But you don't find out the result until the next episode, episode 12, The Perfect Rocks. Mana explodes even more because the gifting wasn't enough last episode. You need more gifting. So more gifting happens.
Plot.
Right. And Soma is declared the winner. Asahi only has the flavors of other chefs, and Asahi wants a family. So basically what happens is that because he's got like this, it's kind of the same plot that they used with the copycat dude who ended up helping Soma with his Chinese restaurant during the like school festival, that dude. It's kind of that same thing of like you're able to take on other chef skills, but you can't create anything of your own. You can't find your own flavor. And that's kind of the same thing that happened with Asahi here, is that he was a much more higher level skilled version of that, but he wasn't able to create something that had his own signature to it, whereas Soma has been trialing and erroring and making things that failed, the taste of failure, over and over and over again his entire life. And not just that, he's also been surrounded by other people that were doing the same, specifically his mum, who was doing that throughout his entire childhood. And because of that, he was able to come up with things that other people wouldn't ever dream of or ever think of, because they, in their mind, goes, oh, that'll never work. But because he tries it and fails, he's able to find a way that it does work. So yeah.
And also getting to see Soma's mom in this episode was just, oh, it's so good.
Yeah, and I think this is the episode where you learn about how Soma got his scar as well.
It was. And for those that don't know, he fell in the kitchen and he managed to protect. Yeah, like he protected the fish, but somehow managed to cut his eyebrow. We don't know how it happened. We just know that it actually happened. They actually brought it up.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's another thing that I didn't think I was ever going to get an explanation of, that I spoke about during our last podcast episode, that I said, I want to know how Soma got his scar. And I was so happy that we now know. And I don't even mind that it's so mundane. Like, I really like that they included that it makes him more human.
The fact that we got answers to all of our questions just
it's so
made
satisfying.
Me... Yeah, like, it just... I think that's why I'm satisfied with it, even though I feel like I wanted more. The fact that they wrapped up literally everything to where I have no questions left.
Yeah.
Just makes me happy.
Yeah, me too. So Soma actually ends up asking Asahi why he wanted to marry Erina, and basically Asahi just wanted a family. Like he's been alone his whole life. He was working in and out of like foster cares and adoption centers, and he has like this relationship with Soma's dad, where Juichiro came and like found him and he like kind of took him under his wing and became his food dad, his cooking dad. And then his wife died and he had to go home to raise Soma. And so he asked Asahi to come with him, but Asahi turned him down because that wasn't, like, he didn't know Soma, and he wanted to be, like, I guess the only child. Like, he wanted someone to just choose him. And he didn't want to have, like, Soma around, so he said no. And then he always had this kind of, like, revenge plot against Soma since then. And then that, included with his longing for a family, kind of persuaded him that Erina was the person he wanted to set his sights on, which is interesting because of how the next episode goes. But yeah, Soma wins, and he goes to, like, Erina to be like, yeah, I won. And Erina is really cold to him. Erina's mom and dad reminisce. Mana... Okay, so this is the thing that I was talking about where I said I missed this. But Wikipedia says it happened. Apparently, Mana... I knew about this bit. She tasted a connection between Erina's dad and Asahi through their food. Yeah, I knew about that. The bit that I didn't pick up on was that apparently she then goes and tells Gramps that there's a connection between the two of them.
She just basically reiterated that point to Gramps.
Okay.
Like, she said she tasted the same thing in Asahi's cooking that she tasted in Azumi's cooking.
Yeah.
With the, like, just
the
that they felt like they were cooking to, it was just empty.
Yeah. See, I got that much, but I didn't. Wikipedia interprets that as her finding a blood connection between them.
You see, I just none of that.
I interpreted that conversation of her with Gramps as saying, I think we need to do something about him, like, now, take him under our wing, whatever, before he turns into, like, before it becomes way much more of a big deal. Like, he's lost right now, we need to, like, make him feel comfy. That's how I interpreted that conversation. I did not interpret it as her being like, hey, there's something up there between the two of them.
Yeah, you see, I had the same thought with you on that one, but then you and I had two vastly different thoughts on how everything, like, on how the next episode talks about all that. Because, again, I apparently missed flashback because I'm an idiot, and I guess I looked away for 2 seconds.
Yeah, well, the flashback was, it was, like, there was no talking about it, like, through it. B, it was very quick. And C, I feel like it was decently misinterpretable in the way that it happens. I'll explain it when we get into it. But yeah, episode 13, Food Wars. We finally have the name of the show in the episode name.
It took 5 whole seasons.
It did. Oh, forgot something about episode 12. Gramps reveals that he purposefully made the Generation of Miracles, which was actually pretty cool to see. That it wasn't just like just so happens. It was like, no, he searched for people to try and help Erina. Which explains a lot. And I like that they included that in there. Yeah,
because it's, we realize Totsuki is, like, Japan's top cooking school. But it seems like it's very much just Japanese chefs.
Yeah.
Whereas with
this generation, there's a bunch of foreigners.
Yeah. And they're all vastly different. Like, look at Polar Star, for instance, and all the amount of people that it had in there.
Yeah.
And even all the side characters were handpicked by Gramps.
Yeah.
Like, that was really cool to see, and it made a lot of sense. Again, like, subtle things that we didn't realize we needed, but I'm very glad we got it.
100%, yeah. It was very, very well thought through. So yeah, episode 13. Soma makes Erina the first dish he ever served her, but better. Gifting happens, and then a lot of gifting happens. So much gifting that the building gets gifted.
Yeah, the building gets gifted. The clothes don't just get gifted, they get shredded.
Yeah.
It was gifting beyond gifting.
Yeah. Also, I want to just, like, round of applause to those, like, concierge workers or whoever, like, were working at that stadium that were able to give people back their exact clothing in between the rounds. Like, there was, like, an hour between shows, and they were able to get everybody back their exact clothing. Like, a round of applause to those hard workers.
Maybe the people just brought spare clothes, man.
Of the exact same.
Yes. I mean, don't you have 2 of the exact same outfits on hand at all times?
Funnily enough, I just so happen to have one here I prepared earlier.
I mean, I have exactly the same bamboo socks, jeans, underwear, cloak t-shirt and cloak hoodie that I'm wearing right now. I have an exact replica, just in case someone decides to eat something delicious and my clothes explode.
Don't have
Could
to worry
you
about your
imagine
undies,
if
though. Those stay on.
For some unknown reason.
And with the occasional exception.
Yes, with the very occasional exception.
But only when there are strategic other things to be placed around.
But it's also crazy how certain people did not get their clothes back. Like Meat, for instance, was wearing a robe.
Yeah.
Like a bathrobe.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's one of those things.
Okay, yeah. So, gifting happens. Erina kind of gets her oh my god, my stomach. Did you hear that?
I think I did. I think
that
the
was
mic
loud.
did pick that up.
That was loud. Okay. Erina kind of gets knocked back into her senses again, which we do appreciate because we love Erina the way that she is. And she refuses to say that it's delicious. And she says that the reason why it's not delicious is because I'm going to do better. Like, perseveres and ends up beating Soma, even though you don't get to see her cook.
Which, at first, I was frustrated with, but then we actually got a flashback of the award ceremony, so I was like, fuck it, I'm happy.
Yeah. So Soma ends up getting second place. So then we get a party at the Polar Star Dorm, which I really appreciate that they went back there. And, yeah, get a party there where the rest of the gang are all there to celebrate his second place. And then he pulls a move that his dad would pull and just, like, leaves a note and ups and leaves for a few months.
But it was very much a Soma-style note.
It was.
I got a chuckle out of that one.
Yeah, it was a Soma-style note, but a Juichiro-style move. And I assume his mom wrote notes like that. So, yeah, it was very much of his character.
Yep.
And yeah, he goes around to learn more about cooking and stuff, and whilst he's doing that, we get a flashback of all of the rest of the gang taking down Noir behind the scenes during the competition, and Erina's family also come home, and they also get Asahi. It turns out it's confirmed that he is Erina's half-brother, so he was aiming to marry his little sis. That must have been some awkward dinner table conversations.
Just a bit.
Yeah. And then everyone returns to the diner and we end off the show, we end off the season at the original diner that started it all.
And we get a flashback to season 1 because the tentacles come back.
Yeah. Yeah, Soma's cooking something real bad.
But what humored me the most is that he got Erina to eat the peanut butter charbroiled squid.
Yeah.
Like the fact that it showed him forcefully shoving it in each individual person's mouth, including Erina's. I got a massive chuckle out of that.
Yeah. You know she's officially initiated into being part of the gang when she's been forced to eat something gross.
Yep. But then also, again, it was this season that put the nail in the coffin of all the other ships because Erina talked about at the end about how after she had that last dish from Soma at the finals of the Blue, that's just what her heart longed for, was for his cooking. I was like, oh, it's so sweet.
So sweet. Yeah, no, I think they're a really good pair. I like that they have a solid rivalry between the two of them, and I like that they would be totally fine with each other's kind of, like, lone wolf behavior.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I don't think that he would be a good fit for Megami, because I feel like Megami needs she would prefer to have someone who she can, like, live with all the time and, like, make a business together with, you know? Whereas I feel like Soma and Erina are both going to do their own separate projects and meet up, like, twice a year.
Yeah, it's like a Goku-Chi-Chi relationship, and that Goku dies and goes off training in the afterlife for 5 years, but comes back home like nothing happened. It's very much that type of relationship.
Yeah, I feel like Megami would need someone that's more like, let's start a restaurant together, you know? Work on projects together.
Very much more family-oriented.
Mm-hmm. Which makes sense to her character.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah. So, okay, let's talk about this half-brother thing. Let's talk about what you thought it was going to be.
So, I missed a flashback where... So, there's a flashback of Asami going to a...
Like a bar.
Bar. Yeah, like a bar in America. And he's like, I made a mistake. And it apparently shows him with a woman, according to Blue, and that's whenever he said he made a mistake.
Yeah, it's just like a silhouette of a woman while he's sitting at a bar with a drink in his hand. And like the over voice of it is just like, yeah, I made a mistake. And so my immediate interpretation was, oh, love child.
Yeah, I missed that. Now, granted, at the time, I watched that episode while I was splitting kindling. So I was half paying attention, and so it was just easy for me to miss that because it was one of those blink and you miss it moments.
Yeah.
To where I caught literally everything else, but it's just that short of a scene to where all I heard and read was I made a mistake. I didn't get to pay attention to anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So I took it as whenever they went to go get Asami, that they were just going to get him because Erina's dad was telling Erina because he was going to leave. And he's like, I'm going away for a while because I'm going to go get Asahi. And Erina's just like, why? And he said, because I've already abandoned one child, I can't abandon another. And so I just thought how he abandoned Erina so he could enact his plan to take over Totsuki to try to, be able to get Erina taken care of. I just thought he's like, oh, okay, well, he sees so much of himself in this kid, he's going to, go back and get him to make sure he doesn't go down the same path of self-destruction. And then Blue was like, nah, fam, you missed something. And I was like, motherfucker.
Yeah. I was like, no, they're that's a half brother and sister. And then when I messaged him that, and then Brad told me what he thought, I was like, did I just dream that? Like, am I, what happened in my brain? Are they not related? And then Brad Googled it, and turns out that I was correct. But yeah, I didn't pick up on the fact that Mana was the one who originally thought that they were connected. I figured that Erina's dad kind of saw a resemblance, because I never really understood how Erina's dad knew that was his kid, because he never stepped in when he was talking about, marrying Erina, even though he was around for some of it. And so I was like, okay, well, he obviously doesn't know that's his kid, otherwise he would have put a stop to that real quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, he
didn't. So the show kind of retconned it, so I don't take any offense to it. Although I wish I could have seen... Also, he should have at least apologized.
Yeah.
The fact that we didn't get an apology is to where I'm just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But although I like how Erina was really smug about it in the last episode, where you get the scene of them at a family dinner.
Yeah. She calls him Nichan.
Yeah. Not only that, but Asa Nichan, which I lost it. I was like, that is hilarious.
Yeah.
Because it's just said in such a condescending way to where I feel like we got our payback on it in that, she's digging at him.
Yeah.
But
you wanted to marry me, but you're my brother.
Yeah. So it was, which is very Erina. I'm not going to discount that at all. But the fact that we didn't get an apology was just bleh.
Yeah, I remember watching that final episode and just being like, gross. That's so gross.
Agreed. Yeah. But again, they made up for it, so I can't take anything away from it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not one of those things where I'm pissed about it, because I would have been pissed about it if he knew. But because everyone was kind of real ignorant about it. Yeah, I mean, it's weird. I'd prefer that they weren't blood related, but it is what it is,
Yeah. Honestly, I like my version of things better, but we'll just leave it there.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about the big blood. I mean, I don't like that they're blood related. That makes me feel real weird, and it makes me not necessarily want to watch the season again, because now I'm gonna have to go through all of that cringe knowing that they're blood related, and that makes me feel all kinds of weird.
But it should make it a little bit more, I guess, understandable now that we actually have answers. Because again, no one knew.
Yeah.
So of course, with him being as full of himself as he was with his cooking, why would he not pursue the God tongue?
Yeah.
So it
And he
makes
all he
sense.
wanted was a family. He just wanted somebody to hold him and tell him everything was gonna be okay. And you have to I mean, you definitely get a soft spot for him when you go and see the flashbacks with him with Jutaro and everyone else in the orphanage and stuff like that. You get those, feels for him. And, he's not a bad guy. He's a bit of a dick, but he's not a bad guy.
He's egotistical. He very much fits you could tell he was raised by Joichiro.
Yeah, and you can also tell that he, it's very insecure. It's very much a front. It's not his actual behavior. I wouldn't even mind, a couple of OVAs on, like him developing his character a little bit more and us seeing who he is as a person, because like obviously the person that we saw him as is not him. That's him with his defenses up and his walls up.
Mm-hmm. But that little moment with Joichiro after he lost to Soma, and Joichiro was just like, you don't have to worry about a family because you'll always be my, like, food
cooking son. Yeah.
Yeah, cooking son. I was like, oh, that's sweet.
Yeah. It's like, but I wouldn't have even, alternate ending. If this had happened, I would have been satisfied. Of Joichiro having a conversation with him and him walking away, and then Soma having a conversation with him and being like, so, you know, I learned that you're like basically my brother, so like come home. And then like them becoming siblings.
Yes.
Like that would have been fine too.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now shall we get into how I would have preferred the ending of this season to play out?
Yeah, let's hear it.
So instead of it being Soma and Asahi in the finals, or Soma and Asahi in the semifinals, and Erina just breezing through her semifinal match, what I would have preferred is Erina and Asahi in a semifinal match, and Soma and Tsukasa in a semifinal.
Okay.
Because Soma has still not defeated Tsukasa in a one-on-one.
True.
And so I feel like had he actually done that and then went against Asahi, he still would have been at a major disadvantage. But it still would have been more character development. Because then, had Soma beat Asahi in the actual finals, then Erina still could have had the moment of, no, this isn't okay. You can't be the one to, you know, please my mother's palate. It has to be me. So I'm challenging you to a Shokugeki right now to actually see who gets to be that person.
Right. Interesting.
And then that whole last scene still could have played out as it was. But for one, Soma could have got his victory, so he would have got the big trophy. But it could have just been a little bit more character development on Erina's part, and she still could have had the whole confidence boost thing after trying Soma's dish and all that other stuff. But I feel like it could have been a little bit more grand for the semifinals instead of having it be Soma and Asahi in the semifinals, which was what the whole season was leading up to, and that happened in episode 11 and was very quickly squashed with finding out who won at the beginning of episode 12, to where we didn't even get the match with Soma and Erina until episode 13, halfway through.
Right.
So I feel like there's just more they could have done with it.
Yeah, I kind of get your feel on that. I don't know which one I would have preferred. I like this one. Obviously, this one played out, actually, so it's more prominent in my brain.
Mm-hmm.
I like the fact that Asahi beat Tsukasa because it really established how strong he is as a chef and made him a really big villain. So I feel like he needed to defeat someone on that same level earlier on in the competition, like he did Tsukasa. But if you're going to go with your plot, I feel like they could have included somebody else that had done really, really well from the year that had already left for them to have beat to still establish that same plot line. Like if Tsukasa came back with somebody else.
It was Soma and Erina that beat Tsukasa and Rinchan.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very, very much established that Erina was the one who got them that victory.
Yeah.
So we already knew that Erina was the reason that they beat Tsukasa and Rinchan, even though Soma assisted. So it's still established right then that Erina was a stronger chef than
I just think that might have
Tsukasa.
happened too late in the season. I feel like you needed something right off the bat. Well, I suppose he beat Joichiro. Then, okay, if that's the case, then I would have liked to have seen that happen. But then he was still shrouded in mystery at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
You just knew that he was stronger than Joichiro, which again, I still feel like that established that point right off the bat anyway.
Yeah. I also wouldn't have minded in episode 13, I feel like episode 13 could have been a movie, to be honest, of having a Polar Star fight between Soma and Joichiro.
Honestly, like a true brawl between the two, and then having Soma actually come out on top, I would have been okay with that, because then at that point, Soma actually overcame his dad, too.
I wouldn't have even minded like a reverse Shokugeki, where they're trying to make the worst one, and Soma beats his dad in the worst, and then they start like the competition of that, and Soma beats his dad 500 times in the worst food, so his dad can make the best food, but Soma can make the worst food. That would be hilarious.
That would be hilarious. I would be fine with that as well.
Yeah. Especially considering Soma takes after his mom, and his mom was the worst chef.
Yep. Oh yeah, but
yeah. I'm completely satisfied with the show. I don't personally feel like I needed more. The things that I want more are like luxury items, you know, like OVAs of little things here and there. But I'm very satisfied with the show.
Oh, I'm very satisfied with it. I know we had talked about before we sat down to watch for this season. We're just like, you know, things need to come to an end while they're good, but we still don't want to see it go. Mm-hmm. I'm not glad to see it go, but I'm happy with how it went. Like, I am 100% satisfied. It's like you said, I could go with, you know, dessert sprinkled in here or there with little things, but ultimately, I'm pleased with it.
Yeah, and I agree. I like the storyline. I'm gonna give season 5 a solid 9 out of 10.
So we agree.
Yeah, you're on the same wavelength.
We are. Now, OP and ED.
We didn't talk about
this. How did you feel?
To be honest, the OP got skipped a lot. Not because it was bad, just because the show was intense and I needed to get through it. Mm-hmm. I like the animation through it. I liked that I thought it was cute. And yeah, I thought they were very listenable.
They were. Now, considering how much of a break we had between the rest of Food Wars and this season, the OP, had it been on any other show, I would have hated. Mm-hmm. But the fact that it was Food Wars and the fact that it was basically a callback to the first OP, I loved it. Mm-hmm. It's not something I can listen to all the time because it's not my brand of J-pop, but I still enjoyed it. I think it fit the show, so therefore I have no issues with it. The ED, on the other hand, was great.
Yeah, I really liked how they used the OP throughout, like, emotional moments. And they didn't just use the same OP, they transitioned it into, like, a piano version at one point. There was, like, they shaped the OP, but you listen to it and you're like, oh, yeah.
And I feel like they brought back old OPs throughout this as well.
They did.
I feel like they brought back the first one at some point in, like, the last couple of episodes to where I heard it and I was like,
that's the first OP. Yeah.
There's just so many callbacks that just made my heart happy to where I feel like a 9 is still understating it just a little bit, but I don't like giving quarter points on anything, and I also don't feel like it was a 9.5 either.
Yeah, I really liked that little moment where one of the Polar Star boys talks about the bento box girl in the village being really cute. I thought that was cute. I was like, yeah, throwback to the girl who had a crush on Soma from day one.
Right.
Since middle school.
Food Wars as a whole, what do you rate it? Now that we've completely completed everything.
I'm keeping it at a 9. I'm keeping it at a 9 out of 10.
I can agree with that.
Yeah, I really like that the season concluded on a really good point. The show concluded on a really good point. I feel like it wrapped up all loose ends. I don't feel like anything's missing. I feel like there's no characters that I dislike or find really annoying, which tends to happen in most shows, especially shows that have a lot of episodes. But there's not like one character that I think of that I'm like, I would strangle that character if I met them in real life, you know?
Yes.
And I like the OPs and EDs consistently. I don't think there's a single one of them that I'm like, I would never, ever, ever listen to that. It's making my ears bleed. I love the food. Food's great all the way through it. What makes me hungry every time I watch it. I want to eat. I have to watch it with snacks every single time. Main character is great. I love the fact that they kind of had an established relationship. It's not one of those ones that leaves you wondering who the ship's gonna end up being with, but they also didn't like push it to the point where it made it into like a romance thing, because this show is very not based in romance, and I feel like if they had gone for that, it would have been too much.
I feel like the fact that they left it till the very end, because they kind of hinted at it, you know, a little bit here or there, but even then you still don't get the feelings truly reciprocated from Soma. But then again, Soma's very much Joichiro's kid in that he's not one to really just express love just outright. He's going to do it through his cooking and everything else.
Well, and Soma's kind of thick. Soma's not exactly the brightest sharp in the knife. What?
He just... Just don't even try to correct that. Just leave it. That's being left in regardless of if you fix it or not.
Cool. Yeah. Great. That's not embarrassing.
But he's really not the sharpest knife in the block at all.
I feel like he's one of those guys that's going to end up married like 5 years down the road and then be like, wait, what?
Like he would marry Erina, not realize it, and then be like, oh wait, we're married? What? Yeah.
He's one of those things that's like, oh, or it's like they've been together for like 5 years and Erin's like, are you gonna propose? Like, you gonna like ask me to marry you? And he's like, wait, we're together. And he's like, oh yeah, I guess
fine
we
with
are. It's like,
And it's like he had a ring the whole time, but he just didn't think about it.
yeah,
That would be amazing.
yeah. It's just like,
But I could see it. But yeah, the fact that they saved it till the very end, I could not be any happier with that. Because had they done it anywhere else, I just don't feel like it would have fit the show. But the fact that it was there at the very end to where, again, it wrapped up everything, I have no complaints.
yeah, no, I think the show's great. I'm leaving it on a solid 9 out of 10, which is very high praise from the two of us. And I think the first season to me is hilarious. I think a lot of people would find it not hilarious. So be aware of that. When you tell us your ratings, how did you feel? Do you have the same level of like feelings towards the first season? Like, what do you guys think of the first season in comparison to the rest of the show? Because that's my biggest thing that I'm curious about, because a lot of people hate the first season, but then they love it from that point on. I really liked the first season, and I think that's why I can rate it so high, but I'm curious as to whether or not people would change their opinion on the overall show because of the first season.
Yeah, definitely let us know. And all the DMs and comments and all that other stuff, because we are definitely curious. Because not only do we want to know your thoughts on this show in particular, but also all of our other episodes that we have covered. Because you will be getting all of our thoughts on everything, and also or just awards in general over the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because our next 2 episodes, we have anime awards for next week, which are going to include things like Best OP, Best ED, Best Boy, Best Girl, our Anime of the Year, and all that other fun stuff. That will be coming next week. But also, our last episode for the year is going to be just rating everything from worst to best.
Yeah!
So be sure to let us know what you think about all of that.
Yeah, we've got a lot of homework to be doing, huh, Brad?
We've been trying to do this for over a month, and we have done none of it.
Yep. So this weekend's going to be a fun time for us.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. Should we wrap this baby up?
I am down for that. This is going to turn into our longest episode in a while.
It is.
But I am okay with that because I feel like it's warranted. I feel like it's needed.
We had some good discussions.
Yeah, it's the end of an era in a sense with food anime. So I hate to see it go, but it was good to actually sit down and talk about it and just talk. Yeah. There wasn't anything scripted about this. It was just us sitting down and shooting the shit about a show that we both absolutely love and adore. So it was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
So, Blue doesn't stream, but she has a Twitch. So if you want to be notified of when she decides to ever start streaming again, twitch.tv/Blue Lavender. You can also find her on Instagram and Twitter at Blue Lavender STM. And she also has a YouTube channel and a TikTok at Blue Lavender, to where if you like artsy things, you can find videos there as well. Yeah, that's me. And if you're like somebody who's actually active on social media, you can head on over to Brad Carter Gaming on twitch.tv, where he does the gaming stuff, and it's a fun time. And if you can't get enough of him even with that, then you can hop on over to Instagram at Brad Carter Gaming there as well, and have a looky at all those pics. If you think he does a good job at Instagram, then you can head on over to our show Instagram and Twitter at BnB Anime, where there's memes posted, updates on podcast stuff, what we've got coming in the future, all that kinds of stuff is all on our socials. We also have a YouTube channel where all of our previous episodes are archived, so you can go back and listen to all the ones we've already done, as well as finding them on our website, oh my god, I can't speak. www.bnbanime.com. On there, we have all of our previously archived episodes, as well as all of the listening platforms that you can find them on. We have a bunch of background stuff on us as well. If you want to know what we've been getting up to, voice acting stuff, art stuff, friends of the podcast, all that jazz, all on the website. Yeah. Anything else? I don't think there's anything else. All right. So, thank you all so much for listening. Blue and I greatly appreciate it. Next week and the week after, it's going to be our year in review episode. So if you want to know our thoughts on anything and everything that we have covered for the year, these are our episodes for you. If you have not listened to all of our episodes, or you have not watched a lot of the stuff that we have covered, but you're wondering what you should watch and what you might want to potentially stray away from, these will be the episodes for you as well. But outside of that, we'll catch y'all next time. Bye-bye!
Bye!